Today, on Friday, there was a terror attack in a Parisian suburb. It was the decapitation of a teacher who had shown images of the Prophet Muhammad and who was teaching his students about freedom of expression. Now, this brings us back to the memories of Charlie Hebdo, of the concert that happened in France that was attacked, of the multiple incidents, mass shootings, and other violent acts, criminal acts that happened all across Europe, especially after Syrian refugees came to the European continent. Now, this is something that has sort of been overlooked with COVID, with the election that's been happening in the United States. But Sam Harris, I don't know if you guys remember, he talked about it pretty extensively on Bill Maher. That was the whole Ben Affleck getting angry and basically virtue signaling that he thinks that a neuroscientist is somehow, biased or racist towards Muslims, which is a bit ironic because somebody who studies neuroscience would not see any bias because it's just not a scientific standpoint to take. They would see humans as all being very similar, and the cultural differences are just anthropological, and the basic physiology of a human being is the same no matter where you're born. So it's the idea of, we all bleed red, essentially. Now, there's this idea of Paris in particular being this beautiful Gaelic city that you go to, and there's Europeans eating at these wonderful restaurants near the Notre Dame, and people are walking hand in hand across the Seine, and they're at La Dumago drinking coffee, and this is where Hemingway drank his coffee, and yada, yada, yada. But when you actually go to Paris, it's very different than the Paris you see on TV, especially if you haven't been there before. You don't know which neighborhoods or arrondissements that you should be in, which you shouldn't be in. You're wandering around as a backpacker like I did when I was younger with my friends, and there was a lot of Paris that you just don't see on TV. It's very gritty, it's very dirty, the subways, they smell horrible, and you can go see something like the Sacré-Cœur, which is this beautiful monastery, and then you go down the street from the Sacré-Cœur, and you go onto the main street below Montmartre, and it's falafel stands everywhere. There are North African refugees everywhere on that street selling fake Rolexes, selling falafel. This is something you see in Rome as well a lot. Not as much, but still. And there is a huge contingent of, I would say, North African legal and illegal immigrants that live in Paris. And there is a huge contingent of Muslim people that live in Paris. And also the religion Islam is very prevalent throughout the city, especially in certain neighborhoods, to the point where if you're Jewish or if you're an attractive young woman that likes to wear revealing clothing, it's not safe for you to walk through certain neighborhoods in Paris, in your own city that you were born in. And this is a perfect example of what happens when politicians become afraid to be labeled as a racist and to back strong immigration policies and to even potentially deport certain ethnicities within their country and within their cities because they're afraid of being labeled as a bigot or a racist. So you have a teacher here who was showing pictures of the Prophet Muhammad and gets decapitated by an 18-year-old Chechen who believes very strongly in his Islamic faith to the point where he has to literally decapitate somebody. Now, if you were to bet your friend to post pictures of Muhammad in a compromising, way on the internet, on YouTube, and you said you would give him $1,000 to do so, but he has to put his address on YouTube when he does it, he wouldn't take the bet because there is a actual tangible threat of being killed or being targeted by Islamic extremists. Now, if you made that same bet to your friend and you said post something about the Jewish religion on YouTube and post your address, he might get an angry letter. That's the very worst that happens. If he did the same thing with Christianity, it would be very likely the same thing. There wouldn't be the supreme and real, tangible fear of being murdered just for joking about a religion. This teacher wasn't even joking about the religion. He was using it to teach a lesson, and he was still assassinated. Not even assassinated, really, brutally murdered with a knife by an 18-year-old young Islamic extremist. However, when this news report comes out, people on the left will say that this is a random act. This is an exception to the rule. Charlie Hebdo was an exception to the rule. The music concert in Paris was an exception to the rule. The Christmas village in Germany was an exception to the rule. The massive gang rapes on New Year's Eve in Germany were exceptions to the rule. The burning of police vehicles in Sweden are exceptions to the rule. The mass manipulation of social services by Syrian refugees that were of working age, male of working age, that came here because they were escaping the oppression of Syria, that's an exception to the rule. There's all these exceptions to the rule, but these are patterns. These are patterns of the most extreme religion that we have in our modern day time, and we can't be afraid to call acts like this out, to call it out what it is. And this is basically a wild religion running rampant, not being criticized because people are afraid of blowback. And politicians need to be strong and need to have immigration policies that do not allow for certain cultural groups to come into their country until these things stop. And that's a unpopular point of view to take, but it's a necessary one, or we're going to see more of this. We're going to see more of these attacks happen because the people who are committing these attacks are not Parisian. They are not French. They are not French in their hearts. They are not Parisian in their hearts. They do not believe in European ideals or philosophy. They come to the country to gain economic opportunities. They become extremists through propaganda, through their own community groups, and then things like this happen as a result. So guys, if you like the content, like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.